Okay, so for those who are not familiar with this group process, this is sort of an opportunity to for me to just check in with you in your practice. If there are any questions coming up or hindrances, difficulties, whatever's coming up, or as we go deeper into the retreat, sometimes there are insights that come up. It's an opportunity to share just whatever's coming up on the path, anything that's relevant to this process, to this sadhana. So also, I think we've turned off the chat except for the facilitators. So if you are not, sometimes people are not comfortable sharing in front of the group. So if you have a question that is coming up, you can send that to Tayama, and she'll collect those questions, anything that's coming up, and we can read those at the end. So we set aside an hour and a half for this, but we just usually go until we're out of questions, basically. So we'll just see how it goes. So why don't we start with
Doris.
Doris? Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
Hi.
Hi, Doris.
Hi. Um, I have a question about two of your um, teachings. One is that to be um, present in our everyday, just present with just being without trying to do anything, without any technique, just being throughout our life. And on the other hand, you suggest that we really look for who we are and put our attention on who we are rather than all the external things. So the first one feels very much like being, and the second suggestion is very much like doing. I find, it takes a lot of effort. So I feel very conflicted about that.
Yeah. So yeah, you've highlighted something, and this is sort of the paradox of this path. So in the Taoist tradition, they have a beautiful phrase, "Wei Wu Wei," doing not doing. So when we find out who we are, the true self is not separate from what is happening. So actually by inquiring, continuously into who we are, at first we see it's the false I, the one that's trying to figure it out, the one that's thinking, but when we come to that true self, it's possible to just be with what is arising directly. So not mediated by a thinker or a doer, so that the mind, it's possible to, continue doing without a doer, the thinking without a thinker. And, so to the mind, this doesn't make any, to the little mind, it doesn't make any sense, because it is the thinker. So what happens when we give that up, and we surrender that doer? The body will continue to go about its day. Like the Dan character, will always do its Dan activities. It'll feed the body. It knows how to do it, just like the body knows how to digest our food. It's all just happening. There's this just happeningness to everything. So if we get ourselves out of the way, it literally is just a dropping of that knower and that doer, to be directly present with what is. So to answer your question, it seems paradoxical, but they are, doing, not doing is really a thing. It is a way of being. Mm-hmm.
I understand that, but in the meantime, we need to put in a lot of effort, to always be looking for who we really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like to the self structure, to the character, it feels it's a huge effort. It's an effort of our entire being. Like they say, we have to want it like someone with their hair on fire wants a pond to jump into. So it's all encompassing. We're that continuous practice. Like I was saying earlier, we the habit pattern of the mind is to continuously feed these five skandhas, giving it energy, and it's like a fan, that's running. The whirlpool of the mind is this fan. So in this practice, by being continuously present, we're pulling the plug on the fan, and we just notice when we're plugging it back in again.
Okay, so be continuously present and at the same time be looking for who we are.
Yeah, and it's one and the same, because presence, that awareness that we are, that's you. That's you. So they're not separate.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just one quick question, please.
Yeah.
When we do the diets at night,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like just agitating the mind, and getting more conceptual, more activated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? What do you say to that?
So yeah, well, so do you, when that's coming back, coming up for you, like that's a very common thing. So, people, when they go into the dyads, like sometimes the mind will be trying to answer on the conceptual level, and it feels false. It feels wrong. It's like, the answer is not on the conceptual level, and the mind is, getting frustrated and, looking for things and, getting agitated. So that's part of the process, is to really see that the answer is not on the level of the mind, and to feel like, and you share that, what is authentically coming up, like just if the mind is saying, this is nonsense, I think this is total bullshit or whatever, then you share that. We have to clear that as well. And eventually we'll, once we see truly that the answer is not on the level of the conceptual, on the mind, then the mind can actually relax. It can have a little vacation. Once it gives up, we can just be with this process. We can just be with our partner, and not care, not be looking for an answer, just doing the technique for its own sake, like just being in the moment, having fun with it, letting it become more childlike and playful, and that is more of the truth of who we are. When that spontaneity and that playfulness starts to come through, you start to feel that, wow, this feels like more authentic. This feels more like me. I'm not, just on the mental level trying to figure it out, or, trying to look for answers. So it's more, you through this process, and it really is a process. It takes time. There's a stripping away of all this mind activity, and and it becomes more free and spontaneous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doris.
Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
I just would like your input about if I'm doing the right thing or not. Um, I'm in a lot of the childhood trauma right now stuff with my feelings, rage and grief and all of that. So and it's about losing my faith in God. And so I keep asking myself how can I experience the presence and my true nature? And I'm understanding that my mind had concepts about God, and that's why I kind of lost faith when I was really young, and that created this whole disillusionment about God for me. Is that the right thing to keep asking, or am I supposed to shift my questions?
Yeah, so that disillusionment, the character, for me, I grew up as a Catholic, and it wasn't very fulfilling. The Dan character became very disillusioned as well with that, and that was necessary because it isn't fulfilling on the conceptual level. The type of faith that is often taught is just belief. It's just conceptual. And it's, to me, true faith is when we enter a don't know mind. It's like there's something within all of us that brought us to this, to this sadhana, to this retreat here. So what is that? There's something alive in you, that is yearning for the truth, like yearning for that union. And the problem is that the mind goes, okay, how do I do that now? How do I take control of the process? How do I make that happen? But it's that little mind that wants to know is, that's the one that's been in control. That's the false I, the one that is made up of those concepts and old beliefs. So that one, the character, the Sharon character, has to become disillusioned, has to become almost like lost, or letting go of the reins, entering into something that is unknown. How does that land for you? Are you there, Sharon?
I don't see Sharon anymore.
Oh, I don't either.
Maybe her internet went down.
She is there. Her microphone might be off.
I don't see her.
Yeah, okay. Well,
we
She's
go.
right beside Dan.
Yeah.
okay.
Am I on now, or okay?
Yeah.
Oh, there.
I was muted for some reason, so
Okay.
now thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
I will sit with that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Sharon.
Lisa. And sorry if I mispronounced that.
No, that's fine. My question is about preferences. And, I've heard you say a lot, drop preferences and remain equanimous. And I just want to kind of check in on something or verify something. I understand that sometimes you have to kind of use analogies or say things that aren't quite totally accurate, like in the same way that you might say the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and that's really only true from the vantage point of the earth. So I'm thinking maybe this is one of those things, but I just want to verify that I'm not like going off track in some way with this. So it's my experience that it's impossible for the egoic self to drop preferences, that any attempt I've ever made to be equanimous as the self structure has failed, and ultimately created less equanimity. Like that analogy of like trying to calm the ripples in a pond by moving, and you end up making more ripples. And then also it has been my seeing that which I am, the awareness in which the seeming self structure appears, it's not really accurate to say that it would remain equanimous. It doesn't, because there's not a choice to be unequanimous as that. Like that, yeah. The very nature of that awareness like has equanimity sort of woven into it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is. You could say it is equanimity. I mean, it's not really the right word, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
So am I picking up on the right thing, that there's no actual remaining, there's no one remaining equanimous. Well, it's sort of seeing that equanimity is already there.
Yeah. You put it well. I think, like awareness has no quality. There's no characteristics to it. It's just the only thing is it's just awareness,
right.
and it's it has no location. It's even saying it's everywhere and nowhere is not quite right. We can't really say anything about it. So we can't say really that it's equanimous or anything. It has it's ineffable. Awareness just is. It's just pure being itself, and then the preferences which reside in the character, within the ego structure, like the ego is those preferences. A preference is simply resistance to what is. So that's all the ego is. It is the preferences. So when you drop, when you abide as who you are, when you're awake and realize I'm not that character, then by realizing those preferences belong to the character. I've always been free. Awareness has never had any preferences, never will have any preferences. It's just here for the show. The show is going on. The character, whether it indulges in its preferences, doesn't indulge in its preferences, what does that have to do with me? With awareness. Yeah.
It seems like as long as there's this continuity of remembering that everything, whether it be resistance or whether it be surrender, even like it's always just a shape that's kind of that's just appearing in this.
Yeah. So surrender can just be another game, another level of control within the self structure. So even the whole game of bondage and liberation, it's all happening within the self structure. Enlightenment is just something. It's a game that is being played within Maya, But awareness was never not free. The only illusion, or the only question is, who am I? If I know who I am, there's no problem.
And then another challenge that I had was, or a challenge that seemed to arose was during the dyads. When I was receiving the imperative, well, two things really. When I was receiving the imperative, there was sort of this reframing of it to be the question, tell me what you are instead of tell me who you are, because that felt more relevant. And so I guess I'm asking if that is okay, if we sort of substitute in that word.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second was, I noticed that when I was being the witness, there was much more of a draw into well, I'm not quite sure whether it was a draw into the self-structure or whether it was actually just the natural impulse of the body I had to exert an effort in order to not show the tremendous compassion that was arising. So like for the body to not nod or like lean in or, give those sort of human visual cues that I was there with them. And I had to, because of the instructions given for the dyad, I sort of purposefully interrupted that, what felt like a natural impulse. And I'm wondering if that is the right thing to do.
Yeah. So I'll start with the what you are. Once you know who you are, once you're awake, then actually in the Charles Berner tradition, typically then one will move on to tell me what you are. So that's a natural progression. Do you feel you know who you are?
I do.
Yeah. So
I forget at times, like in daily life.
So grounding in that, is important in the truth of who you are. But if there's a natural impulse for what you are, there's sort of two dimensions of the self-inquiry. So what you are, waking up as awareness, we recognize, that's liberation. We're free. We realize it's the self-structure that suffers. But then, what you are takes us back into life. Tell me what you are. It takes us into direct experience of life, because what I am is actually everything. It's like the awareness it's like I realize I'm not that. I'm nothing or emptiness or I'm whatever it is we are. I'm awake. But then what you are takes you back in, takes you into an infinite number of direct experiences with life. So if that's something that you feel you want to tell your partner to work with what you are, that's great. Yeah. And can you repeat the second part of your question again?
The second part was I noticed that in the witnessing there's this.
Yeah.
Especially when the partner is expressing pain, there's this tremendous welling of like compassion.
Yes.
And, and it wants to express on the body. And there was this effort that I had to make to kind of tamp that down. Yeah.
So I would say there's a middle way with it. So we don't want to be completely, inhuman like statues. There's I think a natural almost synchronizing that happens with our partner sometimes, where, especially if we're very empathic, we'll feel everything that they're going through. So that synchronizing is beautiful. It's part of the process. It helps with the process. So we don't want to shut that down. But really, like the instruction to to not react, to be neutral, is because we don't want to shut down someone's process because of our reaction. So if, like, for example, somebody, if we're recoiling, or it seems like we're evaluating or judging, or maybe we're encouraging, so. But there can be natural reactions. Like sometimes there can be tears. There can be this empathic sort of synchronizing that will happen, and it's very natural. And if it's not impeding the person from sharing, it actually might help them. It might help them to open their heart. So there's a big distinction between a reaction that's coming from the ego and a reaction that's coming from a deeper place. Yeah.
So if there's a feeling that it's coming from a deeper place, you can, like, because I felt almost as if I had to, like, re-engage the ego to sort of shut down what was coming through. So I can kind of let go of that.
Yeah, I just allow, just be open, and just notice. It's a great exercise to be able, to distinguish. Is this part of the conditioned mind reacting? Like what? Just observe within yourself, and just know that the main thing is to just allow the person's process to unfold on its own. It's just happening. If there's a sense of just happeningness to all of it, then it's perfect.
I did notice it gave me, that happening gave me kind of an additional insight last night, which was that, when there's suffering in me, in this apparent me, or whatever, that I'm pretty quick to be able to find some awareness around it, to find that okay, this is just a phenomenon happening in awareness. And it made me realize that when I'm seeing other people, I'm still seeing them as people. And I'm not seeing them as quickly, in a way, like the pain was almost worse that it was in them than arising in this body mind, because I was still kind of seeing that other person as a body mind, not seeing that, like, oh, this is the same thing. This is like a movement appearing in awareness, and which is ultimately me. So in a way, having had that happen was helpful.
I feel like whatever comes up in that process, it's there are many different insights that we can get. So that's a beautiful insight. That it's easier when it's you going through it than someone else. So you can see, there's still something within the self structure that is, active there, seeing the person rather than seeing, awareness playing this game. So, yeah, so that's a great insight. Those are the types of things it can really start to make these subtle unconscious habit patterns of the mind conscious. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, before we go to a next person on the screen, there's just a couple people, Dan, asking about using music as a distraction from other distractions during the meditation. So maybe you could just speak a little bit about preferences of wanting to put music on.
So during the silent meditations, yeah. So music has been, it's like I think there can be a benefit to having a meditation object, music as a meditation object, just like with the chanting, we're using sound as our meditation object, and if we if we stay with any meditation object long enough, it will take us to the vibratory field. So it can be helpful for clearing. Energy will move when we're working with a meditation object like that. But as I've said, it is a stepping stone. So we don't want to use that as a crutch all the time. We want to eventually let go of every meditation object, music, the breath. If we can, when we just come into being, just being, letting all of that go, then we really start to come to see the habit pattern of the mind. So if you feel like, you're using it as a distraction or a way of not facing whatever's coming up, then and it's different for everyone. There may be, for one person, it may be beneficial to use that. Maybe it will help with concentration and staying in the present moment. For another person, it may be a distraction. So you have to kind of feel that out, with every meditation object. Let it serve its purpose, cultivating concentration, inner surrender, inner flow of energy, and, but then eventually let that go,
Thank you. Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Okay, I want to share the meditations that's happening now. Before my meditation usually less than 30 minutes, but this time there's a moment I feel like I was in a womb, and I
In
feel
a womb? Did you like a womb?
yes,
Okay. Yeah.
and the limbs tied up, but in a very comfortable way. I have a back pain which disappeared, and someone, I think it seems to be the character, I don't know, and is flying on the mountains in the sky, and sometimes slides on the path of the mountain. It keeps flying, and feels very happy and a lot of bliss. But I have question about all these images and videos of the mountains, of the skies. My mind found that they're all from like the image I have seen before in the reality, or the videos I have watched in the TV or computer. So I feel those situations cannot continue because the image and the videos saved in my mind or in my brain, maybe it cannot last long. So should I try to experience more in the nature to expand this experience, or this is just another fake world in my imagination?
Yeah, so sometimes in the practice, all kinds of phenomena can come up in the mind. I've had many things myself, and heard reports from other people. Sometimes in the visual space of the mind, all sorts of things can play out, and we can even have experiences where it appears to meet beings and all kinds of phenomena. And this is just part of the process. It just seems to be part of the process where the mind will generate things. We don't always know why it's doing it. Maybe it is something from the past, a movie or something like that. Sometimes the higher mind will generate images, just sort of showing us the situation of what's happening. So there might be like a metaphor for what's unfolding. But ultimately it's all impermanent. It's just phenomena. It's no different than any phenomena that's arising. So the practice is to just not be attached to it. We don't want to shut it down as well. We don't want to push it away either. We want to just allow everything that's coming up to be exactly as it is. So if you have resistance to it, it may be part of a mind clearing process that's happening for you. So we don't want to shut that down or push it away. This is kind of the middle way. We don't want to get caught in it. We're too interested in it, and we don't want to push it away. So we just allow it to be as it is, but continue to just inquire into who are you? Who are you that is aware of that mind?
Okay. The second question is about the during the self inquiry. It does. When I get answered, who am I? I can only have the sensation of the body, like the breath, the pain, or about the body. I couldn't feel other things.
Mm-hmm. So when you received the imperative, was there something in the body that changed when you did that inquiry?
Again, it's just the feeling during the meditation. It's like the vibration of the skin, maybe the skin, or I don't know where it exactly came from, and also sort of power maybe coming from the feet onto the head, something like that. But I just feared it is only about the body. I didn't. It seems that maybe I have identified myself as my body too much. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's something to explore right there. So, so that question, that you're asking right now, like what's coming up in the mind, maybe I've identified too much with the body, explore that, is that true? How do you feel about that? Maybe there's an emotion or a feeling or an expectation for something more than that. So you can share that with your partner, anything that's coming up, whatever the mind is doing, however the mind might be evaluating what's coming up. So we want to attune to those subtle aspects of the practice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Okay, thank you. My question, I have two questions. The first is similar to one that was asked already, but I'd like to ask anyway. So in the meditation yesterday, I had an experience where I started off focusing on the breath, and then the doer just dissolved, and there was just breathing. That I had no sense at all that I was breathing, which is not an experience I've ever had before. And so mind labeled this a good thing and created a story saying, oh, wonderful, progress is being made. And so in the meditation today, there was a craving for the same experience. And I said, okay, drop preferences. And as somebody said earlier, I could not will myself to do that. So the whole meditation consisted of just a feeling of craving for yesterday's experience. Sit and watch it. Do you have any suggestions for how to work with that?
Yeah, so it's great that you see that. That craving, like when we have a merging experience like that, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful peak experience, that craving to try and get that back can go on sometimes for years. I know my first samadhi experience. I was desperate to get it back. It turned me into a seeker. So it's great that you see it. It's the mind it just wants to recreate that experience, and there's not really any trick I can offer to that other than to just see clearly that the mind is doing that. Just see clearly that the mind wants to manufacture that experience again. And the mind can't manufacture it because it can only make facsimiles. It only has memory. But the actual experience happens because we've dropped that mind. We're just with the breath. We're just in presence. So now that the mind knows this game, eventually it will drop. If you just really make it conscious. Every time the mind, that seeking feeling in the mind comes up where it's not okay with what is in this moment, just catch it, just make it conscious. And really, where the resistance can be felt always in the body. There's always three levels when the mind is active. There's the whatever's happening mentally in the mind. This wanting to go to something in whatever it's going for, and then there's a resistance or something happening in the body. And then there will be a change in the breath as well. So the mental, the physical body, and the breath as well. And if you can sort of watch all three dimensions, watch this pattern of resistance as it plays out, that can help in making it conscious. Especially sometimes the body, like there can literally be like a pop almost, that where when we really identify where that resistance lives in the body, we can let it go.
Thank you. That's very helpful. The other question I wanted to ask, in the dyad last night, my experience was just one of silence, stillness, awareness. And so I said that there's silence, there's stillness, there's awareness. I didn't have anything else to say beyond that. And so we just sat in silence the rest of the time. Is that okay, or should I have been doing something more with that?
Yeah, so there's no shoulds really. It's like when we come to that space, there are sort of different stages that people go through in the inquiry, and the coming to a space of just beingness. There's not a lot of phenomena going on, but this is where we want to really see if there's any sort of expectation there. Like you're in a sort of witnessing space. So sometimes like the self-inquiry teachers will sometimes say the witness is the last holdout of the ego. So there's still this witness and what is being witnessed. So you can really start to explore that. Start to explore like what is really happening here. Is there an expectation of wanting something in the mind? Like what is this witness? What is being witnessed? What is this apparent separation? And we can start to get into the subtle, witness and witnessed part of the mind. And we just keep bumping up against that witness, just allowing everything to be as it is. Sometimes, something will come up from the unconscious in this space. There might be a frustration or an expectation, some past energy blockage, or so we hanging out in that space is perfect, and just exploring anything that is authentically coming up in that space. So it's not a problem, but we want to really attune to and get really honest when we're in that space as well. Sometimes there can be a little holdout in the egoic mind, some belief that we're sitting there with. When I did my first enlightenment intensive, I came from a Buddhist kind of background, and I was inquiring with this belief. It was this deep belief that there's no self, but yet I'm inquiring into who I am, and it brought me, hanging out in that stillness brought me face to face with this belief, and I realized it was just a concept. It was something that I had inherited and accepted from Buddhism, and that I actually, what it was pointing towards, anatta, no self. I didn't know what that was. The mind thought it knew, and so so it became a block. So those are the types of things that can come forth. These little beliefs that we're sitting with. So, does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Vera, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank
Able to
you.
hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Hi there.
Okay, so the question is, when I meditate, I have a preference in how I meditate, like the type of meditation I want to do. I like kind of the open awareness meditation where I don't really put a focus on a specific object, like a breath or a body sensation or anything like that, and let things be kind of as they are and not really influence or control anything like that, right? Whatever is happening in the mind, just kind of watch it, right? Any emotions coming up, any sensations coming up. So is that, should I kind of alternate between like a focused, like focusing on the breath versus open awareness, just to kind of get a flavor of it, or it doesn't really matter what type of meditation, how we do it? Yeah.
So how is your concentration? Like if you're just in that sort of meditative space, are you present for long periods of time?
Yes, the concentration is good and I am present for long periods of time, but the only difference I notice between focusing on an object like breath is I feel a lot more energetic if I focus on the breath, like the energy level of the body is really high, whereas if I just sit in open awareness, the energy level is reasonable but not as high as I would be focusing on the breath. That's the only difference. But the other difference I see is if I focus on an object like a breath, it feels like an effort actually. I'm making an effort there. There is somebody present to make the effort. Whereas if I just let things be as they are, it doesn't look like I'm making any effort at all, actually. Yes.
Yeah. So for me, the progression in meditation, these techniques are really sort of stepping stones to get us to a place of choiceless awareness where we can just be, we can just abide in presence. So I would say if your concentration, if you're present, the monkey mind isn't constantly interrupting, then choiceless awareness is a beautiful practice. That to me is, if you just don't choose, you don't choose a meditation object, don't do anything, just be, then how is that for you? When we're just being, there's no doer, no doing, no meditator doing something that could be called meditation. To me, that's true meditation.
Okay, great. One more question is, one thing I'm kind of struggling from long back is I feel like I am somewhere located in the head, behind the eyes, all the time looking out. It's kind of, I don't know if it's the ego, like the little self that is kind of looking out. I'm trying to dissolve it, but I'm not able to dissolve it. It's always there. It's also like forming like a mirror of my face when I'm looking out. It's almost like I'm seeing my face in the front. Like it's not like a visual face, but it's some kind of a projection actually all the time. So that is a little bit frustrating for me because it's sort of like a contraction in the head. I don't know how to think about it. Should I think that, but at the same time, also I'm aware of the contraction here, right? That means I cannot be the contraction if I'm aware of it too, right? I'm aware of, I'm not the same object. So maybe this is also another type of object like the ego here. So should I be thinking that I'm the witness of that, looking at it? I don't know how to kind of deal with that actually. So
Yeah. So when you say you're trying to dissolve it, that indicates to me there's a preference there. There's a resistance to
yes.
that sense that your awareness is located here.
Right.
So who is that's trying to dissolve it? Who thinks they need to get rid of it? The resistance to that, the ego is always resistance to what is. So that's a phenomena that's just arising. The sense that I'm located here, and there's a part of the mind that thinks that shouldn't be happening, even though it is happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would just notice, who what is that is resisting that, and really feel the resistance, to anything that's arising. Whenever there's the resistance to what is, it's always that false I. It's, the little ego that's all it is. It's just always saying no to whatever is arising. So, what happens if you just allow that to be as it is? Just be conscious of it. And the paradox is once we don't resist something, once we allow something to be completely as it is, usually it will just bloom, and then die. But it's when we go to battle with it, we try and dissolve it, or we try and do something with it. It's like that saying, what you resist persists. So whatever we go to battle with, we're actually making it stronger. We actually, it's like working out a muscle. It gets bigger and bigger. So we really have to see how that works. And just drop the resistance. Be equanimous with what is.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Ivan.
You there, Ivan?
Are you there, Ivan? Okay, then we will go to Samuel.
Hi, Samuel.
Well, I have this concern that I maybe I asked last time to you, but it's still very strong inside me. I'm feeling this connection with the world, a very strong disconnection. I had some child trauma, so always it's been very difficult for me to connect with people. And now that I'm doing the practice and doing side and doing this meditation, my mind is telling me that I am like hiding from the things that I should be doing or should be facing the world, like the lessons, let's say. Maybe thinking that I should be facing the problems or facing to be, uh, to be like with people or with something there outside. So I'm like feeling lost in the world somehow. And even when the practices are very good, because this meditation yesterday was very difficult for me to meditate because I was like having this. I came from a breakup and was very this emotion are very strong. So yesterday was very difficult for me to meditate. But this morning was something that I was using these practices of doing the thoughts in bubbles or something. It was very I was with myself in a very big place, very warm. So it was very good. You could see the awareness, seeing like the world, seeing all the things. And I could not identify. But the mind keep telling me that I am hiding. Like the practice of meditation is like you are safe there, but once you can go out to the world, you will be broken again. You are not capable to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
practices. This is something that I have in my mind now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's you know, it can be a real issue on this path as well. Where it's like we can go into the meditation world. Everything is blissful and we're equanimous, but then if we compartmentalize it, if it's something separate from life, then we're in this situation, we're like a ping pong ball, we going back and forth, and there's this sense that I'm at peace now, I've lost it, and it can be a form of escapism as well. So we want to create a bridge between the practice and the world. So your mind, it's a real concern. It's a real, so the question is, how do we create that bridge? And, one of the things that, one of the great tools is this self-inquiry process where we learn to, come to the truth of who and what we are, but also be able to present ourselves to others in the world. This is like a practice that we're doing, in these evenings where we get to, connect to these states during the day in our meditation practice, and then speak and operate from that place, so that we can bridge it, so that we can take it into the world. And it's, there's a lot of, rewiring and a lot of unfolding that happens in that process as well. To be able to go into the world with our heart open and to really operate from that place. It isn't easy, but I would say, this, you're doing this work, like that's what we're doing here is, ideally, creating that bridge, and that bridge is you. It's you are the bridge,
So when we are practicing, when we are just really being able to see the awareness and everything that is happening in the awareness, so we are more capacitated to be in the world, to be able to do standard things because of that. because of the practice, because of the deep way of understanding this?
I think for me, like the compass for life, once we start to get a sense of, how the energy goes into the false I, the fear patterns and the old habit patterns, craving and aversion, once we feel what the energy is like when it is not in that pattern, then that energy, it's like Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. You follow that energy, and it'll start to connect you in all different ways. Synchronicities and just the aliveness of life will become your compass. Rather than reacting or acting in the old habit patterns. So just feeling that aliveness in your practice now will naturally start to bring it to life in the outer world as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ira.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Dan. My
Hi.
question might feel like I'm stepping out of a boxing ring, but it was pretty violent. So I just want to encompass everything that's happened so I can get your guidance on it. My practice up until now was to literally become no body, as in take my attention off the body every time I was meditating. But since I started doing your meditations, and especially today, I felt like my attention was being drawn again and again to the movement of energy in the body. And up until now, I've tried very hard to dissolve that because I thought that was part of another kind of a spiritual character I was trying to create, which was in tune with how energy flowed or did not flow. But today's meditation was war, and it was like I was coming up against myself in multiple ways. Even though I had kept the breath as the object of meditation, focus of the meditation, there was movement of energy in the body, and there was like discursive thought, really loud, non-stop talking. And in between this, like I was just observing it. Is that what one is supposed to do? Like I was just observing all of this, but the movement in the body was really very, very strong. And it was also topped with intermittent, visual stuff that was going on. And that was not the visuals of memory or visions or any of that. It was just like, bursts in the sort of the brain area with different colors, like DMT, variety of patterns. How do I concede? How do I sit still when all of this is going on?
Yeah. So so it sounds like what you described with at one time you were trying to dissolve or get rid of that energy. So now it's like it seems like you're opening to it. You're allowing it to just be, and it's going crazy now. So it's like it's coming to life. So it's like it's like when they turn on the fire hose, and it's like going everywhere. So this will probably just be a temporary thing. It's just the body and mind are acclimatizing now to what's happening and the freeing of that energy. And when the energy moves the body, sometimes there can be twitching. There's all kinds of things, and it's not necessarily very, very comfortable. All I can say is just allow it. Just allow it to be. It's just sometimes part of the process, especially if there's something that is now reintegrating, if we pushed something away in the past and it's now reintegrating, there can be a bit of an acclimatization process to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to just add one thing, which is not, I didn't push it away, but I was saying that I didn't want to make that the be all and end all of a meditation. Like, did I feel the energy or not? So I
Oh, I
started,
see.
to dismantle that previous personality earlier, and I worked hard on it. But here I see that it's like vibrating and moving, and and I'm observing it, and I'm also asking who's moving my body, like what is moving my body. Uh, so there is attention and there's observation on multi levels. So how does one concede with that, and with the discursive thought thrown in with great measure?
Yeah, so all of those levels, you know, like what's coming up for me is, in the Gayatri mantra, which is a beautiful teaching, they say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. There are these three levels. We awaken all three levels of Maya. So so there's the physical, there's the energetic, and there's even that causal level, and really the awakening, we just recognize all of it to be empty of self. So really what that means is to do that, we recognize where the little self is resisting in some way. The little self is just resistance. So if that capacity to abide in awareness, whatever we call that, equanimity, sometimes it comes and goes as well. Equanimity will come and go, and we just have to be equanimous with that as well. So really, all we can do is just keep being present with what is, keep always being present, always surrendering. That used to be my mantra at the Vipassana retreats. Always being present, always surrendering. And it will just unfold, and and just noticing where what parts of us are resisting in any moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. There you go. Oh, I'm not hearing Ryan.
Yeah, it says he's unmuted.
Yeah, could you hear him speaking?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's an audio problem there, Ryan. So
Could you maybe type your question quick in
yeah, that's a good idea.
chat, and then I can read it out for Dan? Perfect. And for all of those that still have your hands up, we have quite a few. If we don't get to you, we have about 11 minutes left. Then just put your hand up. I've written down, put your hand up tomorrow morning, and we'll make sure that I put you to the front of the queue. This is a good moment to be here now.
Yes.
Brian had the experience in his previous meditation where he was in pain and it was actually escalating to panic. He tried staying with the breath, but eventually had to come out of it. So is there any guidance for me here, Dan?
Yeah, so so when panic starts to come, or if we're going into a state of overwhelm, and there can be different signs of that. If we're maybe pushing the nervous system too hard, that's when we want to find the middle way with this practice. So we want to go beyond our comfort zone, whatever it was that led up to that overwhelm. We can explore those conditions, but we don't want to fry the nervous system. If there's real panic setting in, then it can be not productive. So that's a sign. Usually, the body and mind just saying, take the foot off the gas pedal a little bit, and so we want to go beyond our comfort zone. Sometimes there is a time to really surrender to our pain and really surrender to whatever's coming up. But we have to navigate that skillfully. So I would just say, find the middle way with it at this point, and whatever's leading up to that panic response. One of the things we sometimes do with this practice is it's called trigger practice. So there's something, maybe if it's pain, we explore that. We go into it, and I'm going to be giving actually some guided meditations later today that in the afternoon session, I've got a couple techniques that could be helpful as well. So if you attend those sessions, those techniques may help as well. So yeah, thank you.
Lily.
Hello, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So I have a question about shame and fear. So I wrote it down. What about very deep trauma? I've done a lot of work psychologically and holistically or whatever. However, I feel a lot of resistances. Can this strong emotion prevent the loosening of the self structure? Is there something you would recommend to loosen the self structure? I mean, I've tried many things, but it seems like I'm very resistant.
So have you done any practice where you bring consciousness into the somatic field, deep into the body, maybe breath work, pranayama, or vipassana meditation, anything like that?
Well, yes. I mean, I would say maybe not enough. But I've tried breath work, I've tried, meditation, but it seems like there's a part of me that tends to dissociate. I try so hard. Sometimes it comes naturally, but most of the time the mind is very, very strong. And shame is a very deep, very strong emotion. Yeah.
So when you say I dissociate, what do you mean by that? What does that mean to you?
That there's the perception of my body. It's just like I tend to fly up to my mind.
You see, yeah.
I give attention to the mind and not to the body.
Yeah. So I would say a practice like the Vipassana body scan that I'll be teaching this afternoon is a perfect thing for working with trauma, working really making that mind-body connection. Because that's really what it is when, if there's a trauma being held in the body, it doesn't want to be felt. It's sort of, it's whatever the experience was, it was pushed away. So we gradually, with this body scan technique, we can start to feel and make that mind-body connection so that we're connecting with it rather than splitting or separating from it. So I would say that what we'll be doing this afternoon, that's a perfect technique, and if you want to try it out for the afternoon, just do that technique. It's going to be the first thing that I teach when we do the meditation. So you can work with that technique for a few hours, and then tonight when it comes time to do the self-inquiry dyads, that may start to stir things up a little bit, and there may be a communication component of it as well. Something that can be unburdened or expressed in that process. So both of those techniques work really well. We're only on day 2 here, so there's lots of exploration that can happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have time for one more, Dan?
Sure.
Okay, let's go to Renee.
Hello, thank you.
Hi, Renee.
So what's coming in for me from last night, I woke up maybe around 2:30 in the morning, and there was a lot of fear. I guess my question will ultimately be some type of techniques that I could dismantle or dissipate that fear, because some of the things that was showing was images of dark energy, like to get out of the bed, maybe like a silhouette of some type of entity in my space, creating this sensation or this feeling of nervousness to get out of the bed, to proceed to the bathroom, like something wants to block me. And when I say I, the higher self in me said, "Who is this? Who is this fear? Why are you here?" And at that moment, I was able to get up and proceed to the bathroom. But the entire walk, there was this feeling of dismantling that energy, and it was very, it was just very noticeable, and so scary, to the point that it made me like not want to continue on this journey, on this path, because I felt like maybe this is causing that, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
the other part of this is the resistance to speaking to my other family members that's in the house during the breaks but continuous practice. I'm starting to resist wanting to continue on this 7 day because I'm sort of doing that ping pong thing where that's interfering with my life, with my bodysuit person. And if there are any suggestions that you could offer, even around TV watching, my body suit is so connected to these things. And now that this retreat offers an opportunity to let those things go to rest, that's a struggle for me. But one thing is noticeable in my body temple is the hip and back pain has lessened since I've sat down and meditated, started more intense meditation. So if there's anything you can offer to help me stay in the space,
Yeah,
that
so
would be great.
okay, so yeah, so that fear that's coming up, you know, I have on day, I think it's 3 or 4, I actually have a talk that's just about this, about fear. So you're kind of ahead of the game, actually. You know, it's very common for fear, very deep fear to come up. You know, primordial fear. You know, sometimes people describe almost, it feels like supernatural, you know, almost. And you know, when the conditioned self starts to let go, when we're really doing this practice, you know, these deeper layers of the unconscious start to come up to the surface, and there can be very deep fear, but it's also, you know, the fear. It's actually, you know, when I was working with a teacher on my own path, you know, and these deep primordial fears came up. He was actually excited. He was like, "Oh, that's great. You know, that's exciting because you're touching something that feels real. You know, this is your life. Like, and you know, for the self structure, for the conditioned self, you know, it means it's actually letting go. You know, when there's that level of fear there, you know, and when you inquired into that, you know, that inquiry, like, who does this fear belong to? You know, that's one approach. You know, one approach is when that fear comes up, you know, we inquire, like, who does that belong to? That's, you know, the character, you know, that's the Renee character, you know, just letting go going through this letting go process. So that's one approach. But also if it becomes, you know, if the charge of it becomes too much, another approach is to just feel, you know, what that fear and that resistance pattern is in the body. We can touch it gradually, you know, in our meditation practice, and just feel where it lives in the mind and body. So we can approach it in these two ways, you know, just through feeling and energy and sensation. And again, that Vipassana technique that I'm going to teach very soon is great. You know, it's for purifying the self structure of these patterns of these holdings of energy. So I would say, you know, for that, just keep going with the practice. You know, the fear is not a problem. You know, it means you're touching deeper levels. That's all. You know, it's like when we're on the a roller coaster. You know, if we're like this, you know, and there's fear, it's the same energy. When we go like this, we let go. It's just life energy. It's aliveness. You know, when the little self is clenching and resisting, it's not fun, but it can be fun. That same energy is bliss, actually, when that little self lets go. You know, to answer your question about the family thing, yeah, I don't really know your particular logistics there, but you know, if you you know, if you can just do your best to create the space, you know, to create the container, because it really is important to have a container for this retreat where we're in this continuously. We want to really go deep with it. So, and that's kind of up to you to navigate that. So I don't really know what all's in your space, but yeah.
I know time is of essence. I created this container, and my adult daughter came into my container to hug me, to tell me something. And I kind of pushed her away and, you know, did the Ziploc because I've given them all instructions as to what I would be doing. But it just feels like their energy is, because I'm so used to being in the flow of things like everyone else. So I will do my best to continue to container. And maybe I'll lock the door the next time. So that was hard to resist a hug from her, you know.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes there is a balance there as well. You know, maybe the hug won't impede on your practice. Maybe it's all good. You know, just let everything be. You know, and see what that feels like as well. You know, so yeah, it's up to you to navigate that. So yeah, thank you, and thanks everyone. So we will be back here, I believe, at 2 o'clock for meditation. So stay in continuous practice. One of the things, you know, I think I've mentioned it before, but the, you know, the tendency to kind of nap or check out when we're not in these sessions, you know, can sometimes give the mind power to, you know, reestablish its pattern. So stay vigilant and, you know, do your best to stay in the practice. Thank you.